What's going on YouTube? Listen up, young elder gang. This is Dr. Charles P. Winston at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video, you will find history, definitions, scripture, information and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the truth. Keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational and informational purposes only. The information provided on this video is not to be construed as legal advice. We are not legal attorneys. For legal advice, please seek out a licensed legal advisor or attorney. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. All right, let's get started. In 1871, the United States incorporated in England, as was stated earlier, and therefore became an English corporation under the rule of the Crown Rothschild, who are frontmen for the Smiths. As you will see, corporations are not governments. They can only rule by contracts through corporate copyrighted policy. How can a corporation have authority over you? Only by and within the framework and forecomer's doctrine of contract law. State, as defined in 28 U.S.C. SS 1331 C and D. Contract law is the legal framework that governs how businesses exchange goods and services and is a fundamental part of business law. It's based on the principle that agreements should be honored, and its goal is to ensure that all terms and conditions of a contract are followed. Define the following words in a standard dictionary, including derivations: corporation, law, legal, lie, color of law, rights, benefit, certificate, application, attorney, represent, organization, organ, work, policy, copyright, private. Define the following words, phrases in a Black's dictionary: color of law, represent, rights, benefit, privilege, corporation, artificial entity, person, body, individual, citizen, intern, revenue, internal revenue, bankruptcy, resident, occupant, dweller, habitant, reside, indicia, address, taxpayer, debtor. Note, I could note my own observations, but this would only eliminate on your part the task of self-education. So please take the time to educate yourself and not continually rely upon others to speak for you or explain what they have learned, and for which you have failed to take the time to delve out for yourself, so that the knowledge you received by and through repetitious study becomes a tool of wisdom for each and every one of you who listen to this video. Due to the immediate bankruptcy since their Revolutionary War, their United States has been under many bankruptcy reorganizations. There are only two groups of people in this situation that we have today: the creditors and the debtors. A creditor is a person or entity that lends money or extends credit to another party, known as a debtor. Creditors can be banks, financial institutions, suppliers, or even individuals who have provided a loan. A debtor is a person or entity that owes money to another entity, called the creditor. The debtor may be an individual, a company, a firm, or a government. Their creditor is also called a secured party because his interest is secured and not able to be taken away by any debtor. Who gave any consideration to make the Federal Reserve notes, bills and bonds, otherwise known in today's commerce as currency or legal tender? The 73rd Congress of March 9, 1933 said, "It, the new currency, will be worth 100 cents on the dollar and will represent the credit of their nation. It will represent a mortgage on all the homes and the property of the people of the nation." If United States received the benefit of the credit that all walks of life extended to them, does that make them the debtor or the creditor? United States employees even know who you are, a creditor. So isn't it time we started acting like the creditor we truly are? More forbidden history. Based on the comments and behavior of people all over North America, as it is known, the United States, Inc. is revered, dare we say worshipped, unlike any other corporation on the soil in the Western Hemisphere of planet Earth, commonly referred to as America. The reasons for this are many, but few of them have to do with anything remotely dealing with truth and reality. The majority of those who call themselves unwittingly Americans know very little about any real history of the United States, including the nature of the incident that sparked the War for Independence and the true outcome of that war. As you will discover below, it was not about the tax on tea. Our heads are filled with revisionist history by the members of the social compact that control the centres of public education, within or around the locale of the social compact known as the United States. We have continually been redacted to encourage worship, adoration and subservience to government authority. All their school teachers out there who have ever tried to deviate from the accepted instructional materials in their controlled government schools know what I mean. If you didn't toe the line, you were forced into retirement. What would you think if your friends and neighbours started a cult following after McDonald's Corporation? What if on every anniversary since the founding of McDonald's, they gathered together to have a barbecue and shoot off fireworks because they thought that Big Mac set them free, or took special days off during the year to celebrate Ronald McDonald's birthday and carve busts of Ronald at Mount Rushmore to honour him? They would fly the McDonald's corporate flag outside their homes and paste stickers of the flag on their vehicles. What if every time executives for McDonald's ran for office and sent in campaign contributions for their favourite candidate? Periodically, they might even call on the officers of the corporation to solve problems that they were experiencing in their daily lives. Whereas this sounds sacrilegious, absurd, and may even appear to stretch the bounds of making an appropriate analogy, it is no less valid or logical. In fact, if it weren't for certain unrevealed contracts and a whole lot of brainwashing, United States Inc. would have no more influence, power or jurisdiction over you than McDonald's, IBM, General Motors, or for that matter, any other corporation. America has been under an evolving military occupation since 1871. The flag that is flown around the so-called nation in public places and by people who celebrate the occupation is the war flag of United States. If there were such a thing as a peacetime flag, it is presumed that it would be a neutral white banner flag and no other, such as the type of flag that is commonly referred to as a truce flag. Notice that the title of this essay doesn't include the word "the." Just as General Motors doesn't imply a plural number of motors, United States does not imply a plural number of states. There is nothing plural about the contemporary use of the term. United States is a singular proper noun, and correct usage does not include the antecedent definite article. The United States is a corporate trade name like General Motors and identifies a corporation, albeit federal and municipal, but a corporation nevertheless. Just as proper English doesn't include the Canada, the Finland, or the Egypt, it likewise does not include the United States. A far more accurate indicator would be the state of United States. We read of the state of Great Britain in the Declaration of Independence. We hear of the state of Israel in the news. The proper recital of the name United States identifies the for-profit bankrupt commercial enterprise in Washington, D.C., presently managed by the receiver in bankruptcy, Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, aka Secretary of the Treasury. The United States is a slyly concocted solecism, a violation of grammatical rules or of the approved idiomatic usage of language, that plants in the mind the notion that its identity is merged with the states when in fact it is foreign to the compact party states. To fully answer the question, what is the United States, its forbidden history, and the very presumption for supporting it that we are free must first be examined, we will forego our opinions for the moment and examine the record. If you sincerely believe that you are free from bondage because you can't see, hear, taste, smell or touch it, you will understand after completing this video that your awareness of this possibility is not a necessary condition for its existence. Contrary to popular opinion, all that those who fought and died for in the war for independence was rendered null and void just a few short years after the battle ended. The British soldiers were recalled, but the bankers were not. The so-called United States is but a tool, a Trojan horse, if you will, and you are the subject of those who control it, for the money kings, the ancient money changers of today's money mechanics. As a backdrop to the so-called American Revolution, here is a brief overview of the economic forces that were being unleashed in Britain around the time of the Revolution. It provides important background and insight for you to understand that the money kings use everyone and everything as pawns, including governments, in a world game of monopoly. They never operate out in the light of day. They prefer anonymity. You can only know them through their agents and their state apparatus of their countries they control. In this video, we will examine their methods of operation, modus operandi, and the strategies behind them. The economic juggernaut these money kings set in motion toppled everything in its wake, including the fledgling New Republic. Ask yourself while you look over them, do you see evidence of these same practices operating in your world today? The money power of the world entered upon a new and grander era of development when steam was applied to manufactures. In 1774, Mr. Watt perfected the steam engine. This new servant of man, mightier than the genii of Oriental fable, was at once set to work propelling manufactures. The power loom, the spinning jenny and the cotton gin were soon afterward invented, giving a great impulse to the steam manufacturing industry. The conditions of the time threw steam manufactures entirely into the hands of the London money power. Great Britain was the only country in Europe which had coal and iron for steam purposes. The capitalists of the East India Company were the only people in the world with capital to engage in the new industry. The great trading companies of other countries had been broken down by British conquests. Enriched by the trade of the Orient and the tropics, these London capitalists at once seized the opportunity events offered them, chance serves a prepared mind, and embarked energetically in steam manufactures. The East India Company, as such, did not engage in these manufactures. All the stockholders would not wish to invest in them. So large a corporation would be unwieldy. The immensity of the monopoly might excite alarm and provoke opposition. It would serve them better to operate through smaller corporations. A few capitalists might hold the stock of a great number of them without exciting jealousy, and their management would be quiet and easy. The different corporations were like the regiments of an army. It was easy to form them into brigades and divisions and army corps in order to give them the compact solidity of a grand military organization. It had the flexibility of individual enterprise and the solidity of despotism. The money kings adopted the policy of single corporate companies for each special enterprise. They built manufactories of all kinds. They started iron mills, woolen mills and cotton mills. Manufactures of all kinds sprung up everywhere. The money kings organized new joint stock corporations, which built mills and manufactories. New companies operated mines of coal and iron as commerce energetically expanded through manufactures wrought by steam power. They organized new companies, which built vessels to plough the waters of every ocean and built new warehouses. They established new trading stations all over the earth. Commerce had languished in previous ages because the Earth's temperate zone did not have sufficiently cheap products suited to tropical demand to offer in exchange for tropical productions. Steam manufactures opened up a new commercial era. They greatly stimulated tropical production by offering manufactures in those markets. They also greatly stimulated industry in the temperate zone. In all the countries of the temperate zone, the demand for the manufactures of Britain was far beyond the ability to pay for them with exports. The first effect of this state of things was a wave of excitement that swept over Great Britain. An industrial boom was started. Everybody had money invested in the stock of manufacturing companies, shipping companies, trading companies. The money kings took care to have the majority of stock. Outside companies for steam manufactures they knew they could devour at their leisure. The grand money kings had such advantages in their immense capital and in their perfect organization that in commercial crises often originated and always manipulated by them, they managed systematically to break down rival companies and buy them out. They robbed and plundered the minority stockholders. In the end, these organized capitalists got into their own hands, and for a pittance of the true value, all or the greater part of the stock of the various companies, manufacturing, mercantile and shipping that originated in steam manufactures. They thus reduced to a system and a science the art of crushing rival companies and freezing out minority stockholders. Their whole career was a systematic course of treachery, fraud and plunder, without a parallel in history. They advanced step by step, always causing a boom in every new enterprise that enlisted much outside capital, always managing to operate within seasons of business disaster. They lost a few 100,000 by falling prices, a loss which they were abundantly able to stand, while making many millions by obtaining cheaply the stock of broken corporations and the stock sold by minority stockholders. Dealing in futures in boards of trade was then started on a grand scale. This system originated for the purpose of enabling large capitalists to force stocks up or down as they chose, by dint of capital, without any regard to the actual value, the most satanic engine of trickery, fraud and oppression ever devised to enable the strong to plunder the weak. It is the dragnet with which the money kings destroy multitudes of men of small means. Like the fisherman takes fish in his sea, they are fishermen and the rest of mankind is their prey. They are always seeking after spoil. They're always dragging their net for the destruction of the unwary. But aside from this plunder of the weak and the trusting, the regular profits of the new age of industry were very large. In every social construct or compact of the temperate zone, the ongoing demand for British manufactures was much greater than could be paid for by exports. The difference in the balance of trade was always systematically arranged by lending money on mortgage for that amount, or by spending the amount of the deficit in starting some business enterprise in that locale of so-called country. In this way, the adverse balance of trade was not felt by the economic community of the locality falling behind. It bought all it wanted, and the adverse balance of trade actually made times better, for it caused the profits of the money kings to be invested in the so-called country, stimulating business into activity. The disadvantage was the business investment did not belong to the so-called nation, but to the money kings, and the prosperity it caused was not national prosperity, but was the bloated gains of the money kings. The regular method of the money kings for the last 100 years has been to start new manufactures, new shipping companies, new trading companies, gather in all the outside capital possible, freeze out minority stockholders, and throttle outside corporations. This effectively indebted all nations to them. First, they would make parasitic investments equal to the amount of the deficit of the balance of trade. This was done by putting in the profits derived from the East India Company. Then, after investing these profits, they would continually reinvest any future profits of all their enterprises in each and every country until their investments accumulated like rolling balls of snow to at last become an avalanche under which to bury the prosperity of the world. The United States is an abstraction. It exists only on paper. It is a total fiction. It exists as an idea. The various republic states of the Union exist in substance and reality. The United States only takes on physical reality after Congress positively activates constitutionally delegated powers through statutes enacted in accordance with Article 1, Section 7 of the Social Compact, known as the U.S. Constitution. It is necessary for you to read that section. Bifurcated is defined as separated. See the bifurcated chart at the end of this course. We will call it bifurcated because it is the separation from the original jurisdiction, as outlined in the Articles of Confederation. Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 16 and 17 clearly set this out. It's important to remember, as we will be returning to this particular section later on throughout this discourse, the US Congress does have the right to make all laws regarding Washington, D.C. within the 10 miles square granted, whether equal in geographical size as granted or not, and such other territories owned by the United States, etc. This tiny scope of legislative powers is the only authority as it relates to the United States in Congress assembled when contemplating any people of the various states or standing otherwise not signatory to such social compact, otherwise than by either being directly or indirectly related as a member of the posterity to the actual people signatory thereto. European bankers expand. 1785 AD. It had been rumoured that the youngest Rothschild, Nathan, expanded his wealth to £20,000 within a 15-year period by using other people's money, an increase of 2,500%. 1787 AD, Amschel de Meyer Rothschild made the famous statement, "Let me issue and control a nation's money and I care not who writes the laws." It has been alleged that Thomas Jefferson stated, "If the American people ever allow the previous banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, then the banks and the corporations which grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. 1798. AD, the five Rothschild brothers expanded by opening banks in each of the major cities of Europe. Amschelmeyer, Germany; Solomon, Vienna; Jacob, Paris; Nathan, London; Karl, Naples;